No dramatic video this time, just a simple message from Antoine Griezmann. He'll be leaving Atletico Madrid in the summer. With a €120 million move to Barcelona potentially on the horizon, Atletico Madrid will need to replace him. Now, in their normal 4-4-2 formation, they're going to need someone to play alongside Alvaro Morata, but not just replace the goals that Griezmann brought, but also be a fantastic link from the midfield to the attack. We all know Diego Costa isn't up to the task, so let's look at 5 players who potentially are. First up, and undeniably one of the biggest talents in world football, whose future at Juventus is far from certain because, let's be honest, he's living in Cristiano Ronaldo's shadow. It doesn't... Wow, that was well high. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. All you have to do is look at Paulo Dybala's goal statistics from last season to this season. Last season, he had 22 strikes, which is pretty damn good, and this season, just a paltry 5. But if you're willing to ignore that rather demeaning stat, you'll know that Dybala is one hell of a player. Probably, ability-wise, the closest thing we have in the footballing world to reaching Lionel Messi. So would a move to Atletico Madrid work for Dybala? Absolutely, I don't see why not. It's clear that he's got all the ability to replace Griezmann and he could be the star of the show in Atletico. Certainly the more creative-minded player in a team with a rather rigid structure. And they're not even the biggest spenders, but if they're going to get around €120 million for Griezmann, they might as well splash the cash on a more than adequate replacement. The one sticking point is that Juventus have said the Argentinian is not for sale. However, they also said that about Paul Pogba and Arturo Vidal, and look how that turned out. Money definitely talks. Second on this list, and it's more of an out-and-out striker, but the potential for a big man, little man combo up top sounds brilliant. Forget Owen and Heskey, forget Quinn and Phillips, it's all about Alvaro Morata and Gabriel Jesus. Okay, that partnership doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but if Diego Simeone is able to bring Jesus to the Wanda Metropolitana, he'll have one of the best young talents in world football. I say if because although it's definitely not certain that he'll be leaving Manchester City, this season has taught us that Pep Guardiola and the Sky Blues have one hell of a forward in Sergio Aguero, and this doesn't quite bode well for Jesus' time on the pitch. Now again, I'm not saying they want to get rid of Jesus, but it's impossible to promise him the game time. So what Manchester City have instead in the Brazilian is a fantastic make-weight for a potential transfer, much like the transfer from Rodrigo from Atletico Madrid to Manchester City. Guardiola has identified Rodrigo as the perfect replacement for Fernandinho in the centre of Manchester City's midfield. And with him having a 70 million release clause, and with Gabriel Jesus valued at around 80 to 85 million, well, the perfect swap deal could take place, and neither team would really be worse off. With all this said and done, Gabriel Jesus definitely has the ability to succeed in La Liga. He was actually linked with Barcelona before he made the move to Manchester City, but now he's got that physicality behind him from playing a few years in the Premier League. He could definitely go to La Liga and show all that early promise that his career had. The third option is someone who is very different to Antoine Griezmann in the fact that he's a number 10 and he's not going to be bagging 20 goals a season. However, what he could bring to the team is immeasurable in many other ways, and it could be the key to unlocking all of Alvaro Morata has to offer. His parent club Real Madrid don't want him back. Bayern Munich aren't willing to pay the fee to keep him there permanently, so James Rodriguez could find a new home at Atletico Madrid. Now, in the last 2 seasons, he had a few injuries and hasn't necessarily hit the heights we saw in the World Cup 2014, but maybe he just needs the right setup to bring out everything that he can. So it's now you're probably asking the question, how on earth is James going to push through a deal from one side of Madrid to the other? It's highly unlikely that Real Madrid are going to want to deal with their crosstown rivals. Well, it looks like it could be a direct transfer, but maybe with a little stuff off in between. Basically, Bayern Munich will be buying James Rodriguez from Real Madrid and then selling him on for a profit probably a day later. Now, if it does happen, it will mean a slight rejigging in Diego Simeone's tactics. However, if you're going to do all of this to accommodate James Rodriguez, it might pay off. This is because he can be the star of the show, much like with Dybala. He can be the link between the midfield and the attack, and the creative attacking force where we could see him get back to his very best. But talking of someone who's not quite the handmade replacement for Antoine Griezmann, and it's a player who's done so well at Athletic Bilbao in the last few years, it's actually a bit of a surprise he hasn't made a transfer just yet, especially with the likes of Liverpool being interested heavily and Barcelona very briefly in the last season or so. If Iñaki Williams does leave Athletic Bilbao to join Atletico Madrid, he will literally be following in the footsteps of Antoine Griezmann in leaving the Basque region when he left Real Sociedad to go and join Atletico. Now, much like James, as I mentioned before, Williams isn't a handmade replacement for Griezmann. However, what he can bring is something very, very different to what they've got at the moment. His athleticism and the way he can carry the ball over a long distance means he can be the perfect outlet ball and something different to the likes of Costa and Morata. They hold the ball up and don't really move with it so well, whereas Iñaki Williams can push and run for 60, 70 yards. This is because that Williams started his career as a winger. He's taken all of these fantastic traits he learned out wide and has now taken them to a more central role. Bilbao Bilbao seems to have got the best out of him in the last few seasons, and it's actually in this current campaign that he's really started to deliver in front of goal. He's got 4 assists and 18 goals in all competitions, showing that his final ball is slowly improving and he's starting to turn into a top striker. Okay, he's not the most well-known player on this list, but neither is our last candidate, and he is a top player. Last but not least, and it's a little bit of a wild card, although if you do watch a lot of La Liga and especially Sevilla, you'll know all about Pablo Sarabia's talents. Despite playing largely as a number 10, he's put in some consistent figures this season that most of Europe's top strikers would be proud of. The 27-year-old has hit 23 goals and 17 assists in all competitions, as well as the equaliser in the penultimate match day of the season against Atletico in their new stadium. Maybe this isn't the last time he'll be scoring there. The interesting thing about Sarabia is that he has one of the most bizarre clauses in his contract, which could see him snapped up for such a minimal fee. Basically, any club can attempt to sign him for around 18 million euros in the transfer window, up until the last 2 weeks, where it rises to 22 million. Even if you add those together and you're still just paying 40 million, that's still a pretty good deal in today's market, and you can expect that a load of clubs will be interested in him, not just Atletico Madrid. As I mentioned, that kind of money is a no-brainer, and it's not like Atletico Madrid to go for a lesser-known player. Yes, he won't have the name and the glamour that comes with filling the likes of Antoine Griezmann, but that's just not how Atletico Madrid do things. They don't go for the ridiculous signings and the huge names. They rather go for players with top-level experience, but who aren't going to cost them so much and bring such a fanfare with them. Apart from the signing of Thomas Lemar last summer, they haven't really smashed the £50 million mark. So with all that taken into account, I think Pablo Sarabia looks a pretty good fit, of course, if Sevilla are willing to sell him. The only slight issue is that he has come from Real Madrid's youth academy and made a few appearances for their first team. Of course, we've seen in football these days that loyalty pretty much means nothing, and in fact, Atletico Madrid are testament to that with the fact that they've got a few Real Madrid youth products in their team at the moment. If James Rodriguez is willing to cross town, well, Alvaro Morata can welcome him with open arms, having played for the Real Madrid youth team and then found up in the red and white of Atletico. I'm sure he'll be delighted to take Pablo Sarabia alongside him as well. So there you have it, 5 potential replacements for Antoine Griezmann at Real Madrid, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section whether any of these 5 are suitable to replace him, or if there is someone else who can do the job a little bit better. Of course, let me know all your thoughts, smash the like button whilst you're down there, and until next time, I will see you guys later.